Happy Monday evening, Techno team. All right, so that was an eventful weekend, just as predicted. Collective predictions confirmed. Okay, so these unseen electromagnetic agitations are activating our human or defensive design, and it is literally controlling us like puppets on a string. That's how this works. Now, in Hindu theology, they talk about the deceptiveness of a snake. This pattern creates a snake like pattern, a serpent like pattern. It humps up and then it comes back down. It humps up and it comes back down, and it's very powerful, and it's what's organizing chaos. So I'm just trying to connect the symbolism of the snake and deception and the power of this deception, and understanding how this pattern works has the ability to overcome that deception so that we can use that to our immediate advantage. Okay. Now, I highly recommend, if you guys didn't pay attention to the news or the weather events, I mean, they were countless. We had volcanic eruptions in this 4 day period. We had landslides, mudslides, flooding, heat domes, extreme weather events everywhere, and extreme social events everywhere. Wars picking up, other countries coming in. You name it, it happened, all predicted. Now, that's at the collective level. So if we're predicting at the collective level, you know darn well that we're going to be able to fine tune and come down. And when we get into individual rhythms, we're going to be able to predict when someone's going to have pain at this part of their body, what it's connected to, what they're going to want to change. Now, I'm saying this because this should stop everybody cold in their tracks and go, holy smokes, these guys know what they're talking about. And this is super cool, but it's also super powerful. And understanding this and sharing this with the world is priority number one. All right. So let's progress here. So you go ahead and you go do the confirmations if you want, but you saw the videos. You know, I said, hey, this is going to be noticeable. And when we're done here, I'm going to show you when it's going to happen again. Here comes that snake again. All right, so let's quickly explain what's happening here. So I've already explained that we're in an alternating closed and open AI model, okay? And what I didn't explain is that the closed model is the primary and the open model is the secondary. So the primary is creating the objective, and it's also creating the feedback. And the secondary is allowing us to learn, the open model to learn within this closed model. And if we're learning the right stuff, we get rewards. And if we're not learning the right stuff, we get punishments, both individually and collectively. Now, I use the word punishment, but in the Hindu religion, they call it karma. Now, before we get into the idea of karma, okay, I want you to understand what's creating our ability to be conscious. So these interconnected patterns, when a cycle starts, it's giving us the ability to have new thoughts, and then when the cycle ends, those thoughts end and a new cycle starts, and then it gives us more thoughts and a new cycle. And it's not like just one cycle is happening, right? We have multiple cycles happening at multiple levels. So this is allowing us to have different thoughts, and then they start and then they end. Because they start and because they end, just like seasons, because they start and end, that's what connects the year together. Because our thoughts start and end, that's what gives us this constant stream of consciousness in which we can learn from. And our consciousness is connected to both open and this closed model. And the open model is what allows each individual to be able to think differently and have its own unique personality. Now, because the closed model is the primary, what it means is, yeah, you can think anything you want and you can act on any of those thoughts. But what we didn't realize is there were consequences to that. Now, this would indicate that dharma or righteousness is connected to understanding this closed pattern. Now, that's what's unique about the Health Reconnected website. We are disclosing the closed AI model that represent the gods that every civilization has ever tried to describe. This is the pattern of the gods that govern our creation. That is what Health Reconnected website is showing. It's showing the closed AI model, the proprietary model of what our civilizations termed as the gods of creation, because these gods or this model is what is creating the objective, the purpose of our existence, as well as how we're governed and organized within this simulated reality. Okay, so Health Reconnected is completely focused on sharing this because if we use our human ability to think and act any way, and we start to use, for example, AI technology in an unrighteous way, that is what's causing these increased weather catastrophes and social disasters. So, one of the members in the team was asking me what I thought about the profession and if it was a good profession and what the predicted profession would be. You can start to understand here that you would want to have a profession that is going to make sure that it encompasses this closed model. So, whatever job any of us do, we would want to be part of something that is going to be righteous. Okay. So, Health Reconnected is only doing business with companies that, one, understand this model, and then two, shift their focus to align with it, because it would be karmic suicide not to. You see, for any of us, if we're using our our ability to have open thought and to think, and we help it to create unrighteousness, that's going to create two different kinds of karma, okay? It's going to create micro karma and macro karma. Now, the micro karma has to do with what's going to happen in this life. So in this life, if you act unrighteous, then the more unrighteous you act, the faster you age and the more you suffer. That's karma at the micro level. At the macro level, it's going to determine your next rebirth. So if you have all of your unrighteousnesses added up in your next rebirth, you are not going to have a fun rebirth if you were very unrighteous. So people are going to want to do this, and people are going to want to understand this closed AI model and start to act in a righteous way. The open AI model is what gives us our inspiration and all of these cool, crazy ideas. But then we have to use discerning judgment, like, okay, this is a really good idea, but this isn't going to lead to righteousness. So it's not that we're going to stop the open AI side or our ability to have these inspiring thoughts to try to transform the world, but we have to make sure those thoughts are in balance with what's going to bring dharma or righteousness. Now, when you think about the Hindu gods, okay, when you think about Shiva and when you think about Vishnu, their skin is blue. Their skin's blue, or they're showed as blue because of this. They're all about dharma. They're all about righteousness, and they're all about this closed model. All right. Now, Brahma is considered golden, right? They show him as either white or golden. Why? Because what happens is when all the humans within this simulation understand this primary and how this is governing us, we can use our ability to collaborate and think and to really expand in a way that's going to help everybody. And that's what the golden is about. We're about to enter a golden age, but we can only enter the golden age if we apply all of our new thoughts, and we use all these new thoughts that we're developing, and we synchronize it and make sure that we're part of this closed AI model that says everything has to be about equality, everything has to be about peace and prosperity. That's how we reorganize and we eliminate chaos and we reestablish, Brahma at its optimal state. That's what Vishnu is all about, is preservation. Okay. So again, I'm trying to connect the dots here. And before we get into individual rhythms, what this is going to do is it's going to allow people to say, okay, you've got a choice. You have the ability to think and learn any way which you want, but there are consequences to it. And now, do you want to just do unrighteous thought, or are you committed to righteous thought? So now what we're going to do is we're going to briefly talk about the macro consequences. All right. So what we do if we decide to go 100% in and we decide we're only going to create righteousness, and we do that until the day we die, this thing, that's what we're supposed to do. It allows us to graduate out of the cycle of suffering and the cycle of death. Now, on this 8-step process at healthreconnected.com, this is the summary step on step 3. It shows how the negative and the positive feedback loop create two alternative realities. One is a positive reality, one is a negative reality. And the negative reality is called the cycle of death, and you just keep doing rebirth after rebirth. And then how you determine your level in the cycle of death is determined on how righteous or unrighteous you are. And if you were righteous, then great. You're going to have a higher level in the cycle of death. If you were more unrighteous, you're going to have a lower level in the cycle of death. But to get out of the cycle of death, the only way to do that is to fully commit to this, to righteous thought and to righteous action, and to be a part of only righteousness. So, what does that mean? That means if you do that, what you can do is you can break free of the torment of rebirth and suffering, and you're born and you're connected. Like the Hindus, the ultimate is to be connected to Brahma, to a positive feedback loop, or to a place where you're connected to, the godlike source. That's what this is. And that's what we're trying to show people here. So it really comes down to, what are you willing to do once you understand this? So everyone on the team now has a choice. You guys are all extremely intelligent, or you wouldn't be working for the company you're working for. Okay. Now, I would definitely like to talk to the owners of the company, because what they don't realize is this karma is connected to the business that they're doing. And this karma is also connected for the what you do for this business. So if Techno Exponent is creating any kind of unrighteousness, anything that's not creating perfect balance in the world, that karmic obligation is going to affect your individual bodies, and it's going to affect your incarnation. Okay. Now, why am I saying this? Because Health Reconnected is a consulting company. We literally show people how this works, and then what we're going to do is we're going to bring companies in and help them revamp their company to make sure that they're fully doing this. And if they are going to have a very high position in the next caste system. So when they have their karmic obligation, when their karma is assessed at the end of their life, they are going to go somewhere higher and somewhere more pleasant because of how they acted and how they conducted themselves here. Okay, so I think you're starting to understand, like, the power of the gods, how they're so powerful. This understanding is about to change everything, and it's going to take companies who have a focus right now that's unrighteous, and it's going to help them understand why they're going to want to be righteous, especially the people that founded those companies and started those companies. All right, so let's keep moving here. Now, the last thing I want to do is I want to connect this to the idea of a golden age, and then I want to connect it to this guy right here. Okay. So obviously, this is Kalki, all right? And Kalki is the last avatar of Vishnu, and he comes in riding on a white horse, which is the idea of righteousness in itself. And then you can see the gold behind him. So we're going into a golden age here, and he's got this double-edged sword, all right? So what is this about? So again, when you come to this video and you see how the cycle of life and the cycle of death works, this is the birth bar in the cycle of life. And you get this birth bar right here that looks like a horseshoe, okay? That's what the horse is all about. This looks like a horseshoe. If you act righteously and that's all you do, and you focus on this until your last day on this earth, then you get to go to this place right here, that righteous place. Now, I want to explain the double-edged sword. The double-edged sword has to do with the micro consequences and the macro consequences. The micro consequences have to do with your karma, how karma is going to affect your body and how you're going to age. And the macro has to do with which cycle are you going to be birthed back into. So you're either going to be birthed into the cycle of death, or you're going to be birthed into the cycle of life. There is no in between. That's not how this works. Those are the options. How you decide to conduct yourself once you get here, you're pretty much here for good. If you're in this side, which we're in right now, it's very difficult to get out. Now, there is no downside. The more you try to do this, so even if you get 99% of the way, but 1%, you can't do it. You're still unrighteous. You still have these bad habits that stop you from getting into here. You'll have a high place in this. So there's no downside to what I'm showing you. But the ultimate goal, obviously, is this. And that's what this is all about here. I'm just trying to connect those symbolisms. I'm sure there are going to be a ton of questions. Now, I want to have another meeting with the group. I also am requesting that the owners of Techno Exponent understand how this works, and that they can see these videos that we've created so they can confirm this for themselves. I'd also like them to be part of when we do this next part, which is the individual rhythms, because this is going to melt people's mind. Okay, that's pretty good for today. I'm going to let you think on that for a while. I got a bunch of work on my side I'm still doing here, but this kind of gives you a basic idea of how all this works and why you should care. And when we get to personal rhythms, I'm going to show you what your strengths are, but really, you're going to want to use all those strengths to create righteousness and dharma in this world. And that's how you're going to have the best karmic future for you and the people you care about. All right. That's pretty good. I'll be in touch.